Fellow Gambians, my name is Ambassador Essa Bokarr Sey. We are back again on our sessions. Today we are going to discuss the issuance of the Gambia's national identity card, passport, among other documents, to people in foreign lands. Before we go any further, we are citizens of the Republic of the Gambia, or people who are born in the Gambia. Whether you are inside or outside of the Republic of the Gambia, we all know that currently the state machinery charged with the responsibility of managing the affairs of our nation, whether they approve of it or not, are dangling between public opinion and public confidence. And the refinery between these two, as far as the activities of the state machinery and the reactions of the citizens, is definitely the psyche of society. Well, we all know during the era of former directors of immigration, delegations used to leave the Gambia to go abroad and make sure that the issue of immigration matters is addressed how? At that time, it was the embassies that would send a request in conjunction with consul generals or honorary consuls. Then the immigration would come, received or be received, and of course fed and driven around by those very embassies or those very consuls. Therefore, immigration matters were more of answering to a request from the Gambians themselves through the embassy, and then they will come to look at existing passports that have expired, but I've never witnessed as a former ambassador where the immigration came to change national identity cards. All I remember was the renewal of passports. In fact, I remember clearly that embassies used to have stamps with them, which were of course approved in principle by the immigration so that they can stamp it on the passports of Gambians to extend its validity. We have done it over and over. In fact, that is how it was easy to phase out the red Gambian passport, which was in existence until the early days of the 1994 military takeover. Other people had the stamp on them and would travel to the Gambia. Then when they arrive, they will go and then it will be changed to the blue one. That I fully remember. And also, another reason why it happened was there were Gambians in detention centers or in prisons, and the consuls faced challenges. I remember our honorary consul in Zurich, Mr. Snyder. I remember our honorary consul in Madrid, Jaime and Senat. I remember our honorary consul in Barcelona, Juan del Mora. And these people worked hand in hand with Gambians. There was no suspicion between them and these Gambians most of the time. And the Gambians, particularly those in Spain, did a wonderful job to that effect. And the issue of ID cards, to be honest, it is meant to identify people when they are circulating in a given country. But those countries where you have what we call the cross-border voyages do not recognize any traveler to cross a border only with a Gambian ID card. No. What they would recognize is a valid passport with a valid visa on it. And the identity card we are talking about was definitely not needed by people who live in those countries. That is exactly why there was what we call the consular card. A Gambian who is in these countries, when you come to the embassy and you can prove to us that you are Gambian, you were issued with a consular card. And that consular card would definitely substitute the purpose of the national ID card, because in principle, it is a national ID card because it is issued by the embassy of the Republic of the Gambia. That is why within a given context, diplomats are covered by the Vienna Convention. Of course, that's immunity that diplomats enjoy. But when I'm talking about that, I'm going to land on the spot. You listen to me what I mean. Gambians who come to the embassy, no police in France or anybody could have the right to come and arrest you whilst you are in the embassy, because that's Gambian territory. Even if we rent it, it's Gambian territory. So therefore, it is an arm of the government that is recognized, and that's why an ambassador is the only one who is allowed to be on the dais, walk on a red carpet, and then the national anthem will be blown for you. Other than that, nobody has that right to have that kind of reception and ceremony within the Republic of the Gambia, except the President of the Republic of the Gambia. The consular cards that were issued to these people were enough to help them circulate or travel within the territory of the country where they are. Now, when it comes to the criteria set for people to have ID cards in the Gambia, of course, we all remember when Alcalo's attestations and Shefo attestations were not enough for anybody to go and get an ID card. We all remember where the medical and health was during the time of Mr. Samati and others, and that part, I believe, is now annexed, is part of the State House. It was annexed during Jammeh's time. That time you come to the medical and health, you will either come with the Alcalo's attestation, but you have to go through some other rigorous interviews and proofs, and then sometimes they may even send an agent to that village, and they would know, Samate and his team, I remember my bio and others were there, they were very good at what they used to do, because they would know who to ask you about in that village to prove that you did not only get the Alcalo's attestation through other means, but you really are a member of that community and you were born there. And then they will enter you in the ledger, ask you to go and come back, and then you are given a birth certificate. That birth certificate is what we would now take to immigration. They enter it in the data system to give you an ID card. The other document you needed was a nurse certificate, but even with the nurse certificate, you would still go to the medical health for them to give you an ID card. Sorry, a birth certificate, so that you can use it to get the ID card. We all know that. Now, that is where we will come back to say, with the set criteria, if the person lives abroad, for example, let's just write a scenario here. The person lives in Mauritania. There's a set criteria. The criteria is Alcalo's attestation, nurse certificate, birth certificate, through a rigorous probing questions to prove that you are a Gambian citizen. Now, if you are in a foreign country, I don't think the justification of somebody staying abroad and then make it possible for them to move around should be justified based on issuing them national ID cards. The consular card is what is recognized, is enough for anybody who lives in those countries to travel within that given country or to be identified by the police of that particular country that you are a bona fide Gambian citizen because you got the consular card from the embassy. Okay? Now, but if you're abroad and then the criteria is for you to get all those documents from the Gambia. Now, let us hypothetically look at it this way. Now, if you have a list of Gambians who are on a ledger or somewhere, or maybe on a flash drive, and then those people are abroad. Now, connecting the dots is what we are going to do. That list of Gambians, who established the list? And when the list is established, who is the bridge or the connect between those who are on the list and the authorities in the Gambia? When you saw authorities here, we are beginning with the Alcalo and the chief of the district. How did they get all that they need so that when the immigration comes, they can give that as a proof? Alcalo's attestation, chief attestation, birth certificate, no certificate. Now, if they claim to have all those and they are still stationed in a foreign country, in this case Mauritania, or maybe France or anywhere, or even USA, who is the one who facilitated it for them to get the criteria or to satisfy the criteria with the documents that are needed on the ground in the Gambia? Who did that for them? If it is their family members, well, those family members may as well be questioned. But if there is a long list of people and one sees them with all those documents, if investigations are to be done or conducted, the first target of the investigation will be diplomatic pouch. And then see the contents of the diplomatic pouch. And see why were these people identified, how were they identified, and what were they identified for. Then the open-ended question of the investigations come into play. Now, if all that is not established, it beats the purpose, because definitely, if I were to be a president of the Republic of the Gambia today, and I want to stand up for our people abroad so that they can have documents, I would not need to send the immigration there now. Because the consular card is what people on the ground need. That is why people who are abroad, when they are traveling to the Gambia and their documents have expired, or they are arrested by immigration of that particular country, even if they don't have a passport and they are identified to be Gambians, what they get is emergency passport. There are people who voluntarily, in fact, get emergency passports to enter the Gambia. And that is issued by the Embassy of the Republic of the Gambia. So the authority that represents the state is the embassy. The embassy can give them consular cards. Well, if consular cards are no longer part of the process, I wonder how any government official can convince me that they are so concerned for the free movement of the Gambians abroad. Because the consular card is enough. You don't need an ID card to fulfill that purpose. Thank you very much, brothers and sisters.